So I'd like to tell you guys a story. It's a story from many years ago, back when I was still a dashing young rake enrolled at McMaster University. And it's a story whose punchline I only recently figured out. You see, back then, I was taking all manner of elective courses. One of which was a understanding society, political science. In retrospect, it was a course on socialism. Now, the professor gave the students an option. For your final grade, you could write a really boring essay, or he also gave us the option of participating in some social activism. So, of course, I picked the latter. Now, the activism in particular that we were engaged with was trying to establish more funding for halfway houses in the city. So we went out and we interviewed some of the men at these halfway houses who outright said that while they didn't have everything they wanted, it was a lot better than living on the street. Which, to my mind at the time, said, well, we're doing our due diligence by these people, aren't we? We're getting indigents off the street. What more do you want? Should they be getting filet mignon for every meal? And it wasn't until years later, just recently, that I figured out that that was a test that I failed, a test that I'm proud to have failed. Let's talk for a moment about the three different types of people you'll find on this planet and the three different ways of apprehending knowledge. The hylics, the psychics, and the pneumatics. Or the appearance of reality, the symbolic reality, and the true reality. Now, your hylic can only see what's right in front of them. They mistake the map for the territory. And so they embrace these truisms as if they're true. They embrace their sensory impressions as if those sensory impressions are reality itself. And so the hylic might say something like, if you don't work, you don't eat. And they'd look at these halfway houses and be quite upset about it. Another one might say, it's our duty as a society to take care of each other. And so they'd want more funding for these halfway houses. But that would be the full extent of their pondering on the matter. What you see is what you get, with no understanding of what symbols are. So now we get to the psychics. We get to those who do understand that there are these abstract symbols which can be manipulated. There's the reality as we perceive it. But if we manipulate the symbols of reality, then we could look at it another way. A lot of the empty platitudes and affirmations of the New Age movement, a lot of this fits into symbol manipulation. Instead of a negative experience, it was a growing experience. These are the people that become very clever with their words, very good at being manipulative with their words. They make fantastic attorneys. But they're unaware of the truth behind the reality. The pneumatic is where you understand that there's your sense perception. your sense perception, which can be encoded into symbols, symbols which can be moved around, rearranged, experimented with. But behind these symbols is the true reality itself. There's what we perceive, there's how we draw meaning and symbol from it, and then there is the truth. And thus you get the half-wit, mid-wit, full-wit meme, where the full-wit and the half-wit often have far more in common with each other than the mid-wit, who just plays around manipulating symbols. Now, what's the point of talking about this? What does this have to do with some socialist professor trying to raise money for poor people? You see, at the time, I thought he was just a misguided socialist. Right? Maybe a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. And there are complex arguments. There's quite a bit of space for the psychics to have arguments about whether we should do a free market capitalism or a protective socialism. There's times and places for both. You can argue till the cows come home. I thought it was just an intellectual disagreement that I had with this professor. And of course, I myself and you align far more with the school, where we realize that there is this world of inequality. There is the symbol of money, which is an abstracted form of wealth. But behind that, past that, is production. That you cannot have wealth without people producing. And simply playing around with these symbols, moving them around, moving money from the wealthy to the poor, is not going to increase production. All it's going to do is make everybody broke. I thought that was the disagreement I was having with this professor. That this misguided old socialist was simply trying to help people that didn't need help. It never once occurred to me that this man does not give a damn about old loser men in a halfway house. No, what this professor was doing was scouting for talent. The Hilux, which is, at the time, 20 years ago, it's probably worse now, probably about 30% of the university students at minimum. They just go along to get along. You know, the professor tells them something is good, they believe it's good. The psychics would be aware of counter-arguments. And so they would have performed this project to come up with good counter-arguments to people that don't want their tax dollars being taken away from them. These people were ready to be middle management. But what he was really looking for was the pneumatics, the people that could see the truth behind the argument. And I guarantee that he identified me as one of these, but the wrong type. I'm the type, you're the type, that we see this nonsense fundraiser that's not going to help anybody. And we say, you know, maybe instead of having a diversity seminar, what we should actually do is open up a textile plant in the poor country. Maybe the textile plant will help get those people out of poverty as opposed to the diversity seminar. You say that as a student who's hoping to be recruited, well, you just said the wrong damn thing. No, what he was looking for was the people that figured out that he didn't give a damn about the impoverished indigents, but that there was a lot of money to be made pretending to care about them. That every time there's a transfer of wealth between the productive to the unproductive, there's somebody in the middle getting a paycheck. And if you're really smart about it, it can be a very large paycheck indeed. That's what he was looking for. A protege in fundraising, a protege in charity manufacturing, somebody that he could work with to transfer even more funds from rich to poor while siphoning out of the middle. I've often felt as if, well, to be fair, I didn't work as hard as I could have in university. I did treat it as a free dating app to a certain extent. I got by on my intelligence a little bit too much as opposed to actually working and studying as I ought to have. But even if I'd done that, even if I had busted my hump, university was never for me. University, increasingly, is not about studying history to explain it to the public. It's about getting a sinecure. It's not about becoming educated on social systems so that society can thrive. It's about learning tricky language so you can get yours while pretending to be a good person. University is not a place for people like you or me. Quite frankly, folks, it's a place for parasites. And the game was rigged from the start. You're not going to get ahead pursuing a humanities degree or a political science degree. It's not for people like you. If we want to see a change, we're going to have to use that ability to perceive and apprehend truth directly, our noetic capacity to create hypersigils that alter reality itself. Carpe futurum, tenetraditum. This is Irini